Hello and welcome to the ATD presentation on understanding your ATD liability insurance policy. We're glad you took time out of your schedule to join us tonight. I'd like you to meet everyone who put together this presentation tonight. My name is Kim Williams, and I am a director on the board and currently chair of the Education Committee. Also joining us is Dawn Vaughn, president of Alliance of Therapy Dogs. Monica Callahan, she is our education and marketing manager. We also have Elizabeth Vardell, Carrie Brammer, and Jessica Davis. Now, tonight, they are our panelists who will be answering your questions. So to begin with, while we wait for everyone to come in, please go ahead and put in the chat where you're from. We'd like to know where you're viewing us from. Hey, Jared. Charleston, South Carolina says hello to everyone. Salem, Oregon. Wow, it's so nice to see our members from all over. Woo! I'm seeing a few from the Midwest, a couple up north still. I don't know if you're like we are. I'm in Nebraska and we have a little bit of spring and a little bit of winter yet this week to finish out. Hello from New Jersey, Riverside, California. ATD was just there last fall. Beautiful land of enchantment, New Mexico. It is beautiful area there. Hi, Illinois. We're going to wait a few minutes to get started and let everyone get in so they can hear from the beginning. Orange County, New York, Rochester, Minnesota, Raleigh, North Carolina. We have people from all over. Hi, Dallas. Good to see you there too. We were fortunate enough to have several hundred people RSVP for this webinar. We're glad you're so interested in it. It's a very good topic. Elizabeth, did you see your special shout out?
I did.
Philadelphia, thank you for coming. Pennsylvania. Hi, Jim. Good to hear from you. Diana from Tulsa. We'll give it just a few more minutes here. Oregon, Florida, Ohio, SF area. Very cool too. Yes, this will be posted on our webinar page for those of you that can't stay, or if you know people who are interested in it and wanted to see it, you can find it on the Alliance of Therapy Dogs YouTube page. Hey, Chris, good to hear from you. We still have people coming in. Thank you, Ghost. We appreciate the sniffs, hugs, and loves. even virtually. And Echo sends her love as well. Very nice. Okay, people are still loading, I see. We'll give it just another minute, and then we're going to go ahead and get started. Grand Junction, Colorado. Hello. All right, it's 6:36, and I think we'll go ahead and get started. I know there might be a few people that are still loading in. They can catch up with us. And then again, as I said, this will be posted to the Alliance of Therapy YouTube. So once again, our panelists are all board directors, and they will be answering your questions. You will see on your Zoom screen that there is both a Q&A and a chat. Many of you have found the chat already. That's where you load where you're from and say hello. However, if you have a question, please use the Q&A tool, and then our panelists will be answering the questions. Some of the questions I will try and answer live as well. As you come in, still please go ahead and put where you're from in the chat. We love to see it. But remember, if you're asking a question, please use the Q&A tool. Now, to begin. Oh, real quick, I will mention, if you can't find it, use your mouse and go around the screen, and it's usually on the edges, the Q&A tool, either at the bottom of the screen or the top of your screen. The goals of this webinar: why did we choose to have a webinar about ATD's liability insurance? Well, insurance can be complicated to understand. When is it in effect? And when is it not in effect? The truth of the matter is, pet therapy visits carry risks. Our dogs aren't robots. The humans we visit aren't robots. So the purpose of this webinar is to help you understand how ATD's liability insurance works, and then help you mitigate the risk. What is the insurance? It is a $5 million policy that pays up to $5 million per occurrence. Occurrence is the maximum amount an insurance will pay for a single incident or claim. We also have $5 million aggregate. Aggregate is the maximum amount of insurance will pay out over a policy term. So if you have 5 claims, 10 claims, it adds up to $5 million, and you're only 6 months into your term. That's it. That's all the coverage right there. Now, ATD's liability insurance renews yearly, so that's our insurance term. The liability insurance is there to cover legal cost and damages, safeguarding both you as a volunteer and nonprofits from the financial strain of lawsuits. Liability insurance is there to protect against accidental incidents. As our ATD membership grows, the risk to the insurance policy grows. What that means is, with 19,000 members, the percentage of accidents can go up. One thing that I like to mention is the fact that when you are doing pet therapy, you are paying attention to a lot of things. You're watching your dog interact with the person you're interacting in, and you're also watching the environment. That's a lot to keep track of. But all of us know that incidents can happen in a moment. That the liability coverage is there to help when those completely unexpected incidences happen. So the liability protects you from the claims of others for injury, illness, loss, property damage resulting from a visit with you and your dog. The coverage does not protect you or your dog from injury or illness as a result of participating in this program. Coverage applies to the ATD certified handler and dog team functioning as a therapy dog at an event. And members are only covered when ATD is the primary insurance, and no other insurance, whether from a facility or another organization, is in effect while they are visiting. I'll explain that last bullet a little bit more. First of all, we think of claims mainly in terms in the dog world of bites. If there's a bite, someone may potentially sue. But claims can be a number of things, and it indeed has been a number of things over our years. It includes things like when you talk about property damage, a dog peeing on a backpack. Some dogs are tripping hazards, tiny little skin tears that can occur just because your dog was giving a paw to shake or was doing paws up. These are all accidents that happen that we work within our rules and regulations to mitigate some of those risks. I've got a giant breed dog, and when she turns her backside around, she can sweep someone who is not very stable or someone who's small right off their feet. So I have to be watching both her front and her back. When we talk about facility liability insurance, what we're talking about there is, for instance, a hospital may cover volunteer liability insurance. And what that means is, say you're walking in to do your volunteer visit, you slip on the sidewalk, and their liability insurance will pay because you slipped on the sidewalk. Very few facilities carry insurance that covers both you and your certified therapy dog if there's an incident. Most facilities will only cover you as the human. How do you know if your facility covers you both as a team or an individual? Well, you have to ask that facility and find out which way. We'll discuss more of this in just a moment. First, I want to talk about exactly when you're insured. Exactly. You're a volunteer. It is not in effect if you take your dog to work with you. Your dog must be wearing the things that require you to be a member in good standing. Your dog must be wearing the ATD Red Heart tag. You must have your ATD membership card available. You're following all ATD rules, regulations, and policies, including the COE, and you have no other insurance coverage in place. If you are taking your dog out on their nightly walk and someone comes and pets your dogs, are you covered by ATD insurance? No. Take a look at page 5 in your 2025 member handbook for a definition of what a visit is. When you are making and meeting that definition of a visit, that's when you're covered by ATD insurance. Now, to circle back, ATD allows dual membership. That means you can belong to both Alliance of Therapy Dogs and another organization that provides pet therapy. Sometimes people belong to a trauma response team with their dog. Often, the at least more national trauma response organizations provide their own insurance. And at that time, if you are on a visit for that organization, then you cannot wear ATD gear because their organization is carrying the insurance for that visit. ATD members cannot represent both ATD and the other organization at the same time, sends mixed messages. And ATD's liability insurance will only cover if ATD is the primary visit, primary insurance in place. Members are covered only when ATD is the primary insurance and no other insurance, again, from a facility or another organization. It is in effect while they are visiting. We can't say this enough because there are local groups and you wear their shirt or the hospital wants you to wear their shirt. That's perfectly fine as long as they are not providing the insurance. If ATD is providing the insurance, yes, they can still have the hospital t-shirt on, their local organization t-shirt on, but they also have to have the Red Heart Tag membership card, and you've got to follow ATD rules. We'll discuss that a little bit more. If your organization provides insurance and that visit then is covered by that other organization, don't have the Red Heart tag on. I'd like you to meet Will DeReich. Will has been our insurance agent for well over 20 years. His agency is very familiar with ATD's operations, our policies, our regulations, and they keep a very close tab on the pet therapy insurance world and best practices. So we thank Will. He and our board work very closely together to make sure what's in our handbook is followed and allowed by insurance and vice versa. We'll talk about that more later, but thanks, Will, for all the work that you do for us. One of my favorite quotes is the driver on the highway is not safe when he reads the signs, but when he obeys them. If you're driving down the highway at 75 miles per hour and the signs along the road say 75 miles per hour, and then you decide to go 80 miles per hour when you're still in a 75 mile per hour zone, you're knowingly breaking the rule. And if you do that, you have to pay the consequences. So we say to our members, you have the responsibility to know the rules. You can read the ATD book. You can read some of it because you've been an ATD member for so long, you think you know the rules, but things change. And our rules have to cover from one coast to the other, Canada, Puerto Rico, and we have a lot of different dogs, a lot of different facilities that they go to, a lot of different sizes, and our rules and regulations are there to safeguard all of our teams. So it's not just enough to read it, you've got to put it in action. If you have a corgi, say, is it a small dog or is it a short dog? Does the rule of a dog no more than 15 pounds be on a patient's lap or bed apply to the corgi? The corgi is short, but may weigh 30 pounds. And so you need to look at the rules, read the rules, and understand them and how they apply to you, and then put it in action. So again, your membership responsibility. When you certify with ATD and you actually sign at the bottom of the ATD application that you agree to abide by all ATD rules, regulations, member code of ethics. Our membership requires you to read and know the rules each year. If a claim is filed on your behalf, and it is determined that you were not following ATD rules at the time of the incident, you may be required to reimburse ATD for any of the monies paid out on the claim. So, as a reminder, rules are tweaked and changed every year. It is only the member's responsibility to know the rules. It's not the office, not the board of directors. We make them, but you are responsible for knowing them and enacting them. You have your member handbook. Should you lose it, don't worry, call the office. They'll send you another one. It's also on the ATD website under members and in your member portal. There is a difference between accidents and negligence. Negligence could result in you reimbursing money because you knowingly broke the rule. Well, I know we need a 4-foot or shorter leash, but it's not a problem if I bring a 6-foot leash. And then just that day you bring the 6-foot leash, someone trips over the leash, gets tangled with their cane or their walker or a chair, which we've seen, that's negligence. And if there is a claim out of it, you could be responsible. If you want to know more, look at page 2 and 3 in your insurance, under the topic insurance in your member handbook. And it spells out what I'm saying here. How do the ATD rules and insurance work together? Well, each year the board of director has their annual meeting. During that meeting, they look through all the ATD rules and regulations and then tweaks them, changes them, makes additions based on current best practices in the therapy dog world. We watch to see what's happening to our teams, and what type of claims are being made. Insurance then reviews the changes and agrees to back them. They will back only what is in the book and nothing further. ATD participates in a safety audit on behalf of our provider, and it helps the policyholders limit claims and implement best practices. We've gotten very good scores on that safety audit because we are doing everything in our power to mitigate those accidents. What to do about exceptions? If we don't cover exceptions, how do we handle them? Well, our exceptions are covered in the handbook. You have an illness, your dog has an illness, there's surgery, vacation, your dog's about to have a litter. What do you do? When you let the office know about it, they appreciate it. But the bottom line is if you do not make a visit once every 3 months, you need an observation, handling assessment and observation by a tester observer. If you do not make a visit for 6 months, then you will do the handling assessment and all 3 observations again. This seems like a lot of work, but why do we do it? It's because insurance and ATD want you to be in the best form for visiting. We don't want dogs to lose their skills. We don't want the changes that are made in rules to be lost on you because you hadn't looked at it in 6 months. Um, all of the exceptions need to be handled by our handbook or insurance won't pay for it. As I said earlier, we have small dogs, we have large dogs, we have furry dogs, we have thin-coated dogs. And if we made an exception for every one of those dogs, little tiny dogs don't have to wear a collar, big dogs have to wear a collar. Quite frankly, we would lose our insurance because we'd left too many holes in the policy. So our exceptions have to be very narrowed. And then lastly, you have to do your part to mitigate the risk. We're a partner. We're Alliance of Therapy Dogs wouldn't be the great organization it is without our members. However, because there is risk, when you do your part to mitigate the risk, our insurance providers can do their part to protect you. Facilities and your ATD insurance. Facilities, sometimes if you've ever been into a nursing home and they're like, oh, we don't care if your dog is certified or not. They don't know the risk that they're taking. And more facilities are requiring insurance and certification. They want to be sure you've been through a thorough assessment. And because their facility doesn't want to take on the entire risk, they want to know that your certification carries insurance. How does facilities find out more about ATD? There's a quarterly email. They receive an ATD news magazine, an ATD handbook so that they're aware of our rules, and a copy of our insurance letter. If your facility does not have these things and would like to, please let them know that this is available. Check our website under facility, the tab facilities, and you can also let the ATD office know that your facility is interested. Both facilities and ATD members have to work together. Sometimes the facility rules may be in conflict with ATD. If ATD is the primary insurance provider, then ATD rules and regulations take precedent. A facility may say, it's okay, you can have your dog off leash. We know your dog, we trust your dog. And there's an incident, then ATD will not cover that claim, or they would potentially ask you for reimbursement. ATD rules and regulations need to come first if we're the primary insurance. If your facility really wants something in particular, then the facility coordinator or volunteer coordinator can work with ATD to see how it can work together. But regardless, whatever ATD rules are in place or policies are in place, they still have to go first. So if there's a conflict, double check before making a decision. but the office is happy to walk you through. Any questions? Now, this is one we get a lot. Does our ATD liability insurance cover you when you're at work? I got certified so I could bring my dog to work. Why doesn't your insurance cover me at that time? That's because our liability insurance specifically spells out as a volunteer. If you're on the clock, if you're getting paid, then the ATD insurance will not be in effect. It only is a volunteer capacity. Now, if you are at work while being paid, but you do need insurance during that paid time, say you're a school teacher or a counselor or a school counselor, then you need to obtain that insurance from somewhere else. Sometimes the facility you're in will cover it. We do offer on the ATD website Business Insurers of the Carolinas. Now, they are an organization that provides work insurance for you and your dog across the United States. They are not our insurers, and we do not provide them. We provide the information of how to find them on our website as a courtesy. So if you are covered by Business Insurers of the Carolinas, are you covered by ATD Liability Insurance? Not if you're on the clock, only when making a volunteer visit. ATD, on the ATD website, you can find Business Insurers of the Carolinas under the Members tab, and I believe it's under helpful documents. If you are taking your dog to work, to be a member in good standing with ATD, to keep that volunteer insurance, you need to make the required one visit every 3 months to continue being an active ATD therapy team. Even if you went through certification with ATD because your facility required of it, if you sign that application form, you are required to meet the minimum number of visits. How to stay covered under ATD insurance. This is not doom and gloom. Insurance is difficult to get. There are very, very few limited options for any pet therapy organization to cover insurance, especially when you have as many members and in as many places as ATD does. So we want the best insurance that we can give you, and that happens because there are not that many claims in the grand scheme of things. But we want even less claims. The fewer, the better. So how do you do that? First of all, renew on time. If you renew by January 1st or July 1st, you have up to 3 months ahead of time that due date to be able to renew. There is no grace period. So if you meant to renew by January 1st, but you haven't got the paperwork in until January 15th, but have been making visits, you are not covered by insurance from the 1st till the 15th until you receive your new membership card and have met all the requirements. Oh, I know, I've said it again and again, and I will one more time. Know your ATD member handbook. Make sure that you've read it, that you've looked for the changes, that you understand it. Even if you think some of it would never apply to you, you'd be surprised. Ask questions. If you don't know or you're unsure, That's what the ATD office is there for. They'd rather answer your question than have any misunderstandings. And the last bullet, gently coach other teams if needed. This can be tricky. Most people are very amenable to someone saying, oh, you're breaking the 2-foot rule. Or did you notice this? You might want to scoot over here. Um, Phones. People are taking pictures of phones during a therapy visit. All of that can increase risk. So if you as a member see someone that might be working outside of the ATD handbook, go ahead and gently coach them. We don't want you to be the sheriff. You're not the police, but you can go ahead and coach them. If for some reason you feel like there's more than coaching that might be needed for a particular team, there is the ATD grievance and ethics process. It is outlined again on the website in your member portal. However, that's a whole nother topic, so we're not going to get into that tonight. And finally, where can you find information about Alliance of Therapy Dogs? Our website for one, your member portal, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. Our YouTube channel, Alliance of Therapy Dogs YouTube, will have not only this webinar, but other webinars or videos that have been made. And of course, the main office. Emails, office@therapydogs.com, and the phone number 307-432-0272. So there's many ways of getting a hold of us. Much to think about. Maybe a lot of it you already knew, but it doesn't hurt to be reminded that when you have 19,000 members, there's a percentage of incidences that are going to happen. A percentage of those incidents that become claims, and then those claims affect all of us. So be sure and read your handbook and please ask questions. Are there any questions from the panelists that feel that I should say out loud?
Yes, so I'm going to go ahead and read you a few that I think would be good for the live. Let's see. So, we have a question about someone that is going to a home improvement store that did not get permission from the store manager, but is counting these as visits because they're going to visit people at the store. So the people at the store know that they might be getting therapy, but they did not get approval from the store manager. Would this count as an official visit?
Well, I'm afraid that would not count as official visit. According to our handbook, an official visit is being invited to do those visits. I believe that is page 5 of your handbook. So in that case, you're bringing a lot of smiles to people, but you're not covered by ATD insurance because it's not an official visit. Now, if you talk to the school, or excuse me, to the store manager, and he says, yes, we'd love for you to stop by every Thursday afternoon for employee wellness, then that's a visit that can be covered by our insurance.
Right. Another one we have. If I was to visit my work, I am a special education teacher outside of work hours, so therefore would not be on the clock. Does this mean I would be a volunteer or would I also need to have the separate insurance? Also, would it count if I went as an ATD volunteer to my building for an after school event representing ATD and not my job as a teacher at that building?
Okay. So, second part first, if you are going after school when you are no longer being paid to an ATD visit, but at your school, yes, you would be insured by ATD because it is a volunteer visit. First part of the question, Monica, could you read that again?
Yep. So if I was to visit my work outside of work hours, so I would not be on the clock, does this mean I would be a volunteer or would I need the separate insurance?
Okay, again, if your work has invited you for um, lunchtime, employee lunch, to come and bring your therapy dog with you, you would be covered by our insurance if you were volunteering at that time because you are not on the clock. So you can't be paid, and you have to be invited to visit.
Here's one that was answered, but I think it would be good for live. Are we allowed to accept donations? I have always said no, it's all volunteer, but I get so many people who have wanted to give me a donation for gas money or grooming fees or whatever because they know I do it all for free. I can't seem to find any place in the rule book on this subject, or I'm just missing it.
Oh gosh, that one can sometimes be tricky. Uh, a lot of our members, when they are offered donations, will point them to the ATD website and ask people to donate to Alliance of Therapy Dogs rather itself. You cannot get paid or ask for or request reimbursement for a visit. However, I do believe that um, if someone says, hey, we're paying for your parking because you drove all this way to come over here, I believe you can accept that graciously.
Right? Another one. As many rates increase as claims go up, if ATD has no claims in a year, is there an incentive that rates will not go up, thus no increase to member dues?
Mm, that's a little bit tricky as well because insurance rates will go up because of claims, but unfortunately, they're also just going up. ATD's dues combines paying for the insurance as well as the Red Heart tag collection, the membership cards, and the handbooks. So that one's hard for me to answer exactly because insurance tends to raise its price regardless of claims, depending on the year.
Don, I know you said there were a few that you wanted her to touch on live as well, if you wanted to hit those.
Yeah, Kim, there were a couple of questions regarding the number of claims or occurrences. Either I can touch on it or you're welcome to. For example, we didn't have any claims last year, but that doesn't mean we did have reports or rule infractions. And if you could touch on that a little bit, just that we do see infractions and the really only one infraction could cause a big issue.
Yeah, so we've been very lucky that we've had no claims within this last year. However, we have had several grievances and infractions in which could have turned into claims, but we were fortunate they did not. And unfortunately, because there are so few insurance or the agencies that will provide insurance for the type of work we do, if it were a big enough, just one single big enough claim, it could potentially lose us insurance altogether. That's the tricky side of what we do in trying to make that, but we don't really have any control over the insurance side of what they choose is not worth their risk.
Thank you, Kim.
Any others? All right.
Kim, I'll have you go. Kim, can I
Oh,
have you answer? I'll have you answer one more. It was just in the going to respond to it. But the question is, for example, I'm visiting an assisted living facility where we all know most of the residents have mental deficiencies. Per ATD book, if your dog is going to perform tricks, you may remove the leash to perform the tricks, then put the leash back on when you're done performing. During the performance, one of the residents gets up and quickly moves towards their dog and trips accidentally. Is the ATD team covered for any physical quote damage on the resident? If my dog is injured, am I covered for any vet bills he might require?
Don, do you want to answer that first, first part?
Absolutely. So what I was going to say is, one, the insurance that we all carry is a liability insurance. So that does not cover you or your dog when on a visit. The liability is there for those whom you visit. So you and your dog is that responsibility falls on you. As far as if something were to happen, each situation is going to be a little different. Now, their insurance is going to look at, you did take the leash off, but was it safe conditions? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. We're talking hypothetical at this moment. So would they be covered? Possibly. It's hard to give a straight yes or no answer because there's so many variables that will come into each situation in that one.
Yeah, yep. And to answer yes, if the elderly resident fell and hurt herself, and if she made a claim against us, then that's what our liability insurance is for.
In kind of along that, Ken, there is another question. It says, what are some recent examples of claims that were filed? I guess could you touch on some of the regular G&E rules that are
Yeah,
broken more so?
yeah. So there's been a couple of different claims that have been filed. And it goes along with what we see in grievance and ethics. So some of the violations are exactly the example the woman gave, where the leash is dropped and the dog gets away and someone trips over. We've had claims years and years and years and years and years ago of a big dog knocking someone from behind over the back of a chair. If a dog puts their hand up, their paw up to shake with someone with thin skin, we have seen skin tears in G&E. And then we've also have had dogs pee inside a facility. So, as I said, if you're not watching the environment and your dog and the people you're with, you're not doing your job right. It's an exhausting thing to do, pet therapy. All right. So you may be watching this and think, darn, I wish I'd asked that question. Don't worry, you can rewatch it, see if we answered it. But if not, feel free to send it into the office and they can send it in, they can answer it or send it to the education meeting. Um, Committee, I mean. Um, but we hope what you take from this is a pet therapy is risky, but we've got your back. And we will do what we can to protect you. And part of that is coming up with regulations that will protect everyone we have. Can you imagine 19,000 teams making decisions every day when they're out at pet therapy? We hope you're staying safe, and thank you for coming to our webinar tonight. I see it would be nice to have the answers posted. It's not a bad idea. Maybe we'll cover some topics on Facebook again.
Kim, are you able to go back and show the contact info page?
Yes. There we go. Really appreciated all the people that came tonight. Thank you, panelists, as well. You'll have to stay tuned for the next webinar. We'll keep you in suspense. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
Kim, I didn't know if you want to answer this real quick. Someone had just asked, so given the example with a pee stain, is that covered or only an injury occurrence?
That is covered because that would be property damage. So that would be covered. I saw the question if a rule is broken routinely. I think it might be fun to have a grievance and ethics webinar.
And I replied to that in that question routinely, a lot of the questions you see in your reviews and education pieces are based on rules and regulations we routinely see broken.
Someone did ask if we could, actually, a couple people asked if we can post the slides. So I believe that we should be able to post them in the member portal, so we can do that.
What a great idea. Yeah. What if a child has an allergic reaction to your dog? Well, that's one of those things that the insurance would look at if that became a claim. That if you and your dog are following all rules and regulations, then some of that risk is up to the child or whoever is in charge of the child who pet your dog. But there's so many things that would have to be investigated. If you are visiting a family member and the person you are visiting asks to take your dog's picture, can they do that for their own memory? Of course, of course. The photo authorization only comes in play if you want to post to ATD Facebook or in an ATD news magazine or something, or a post that indicates you're an Alliance of Therapy Dogs team. If there's no claim, would that be anything you would still report? That might be something you want to clarify with the office. I would say no, because if you were following, again, all of ATD rules and regulations and that child, it always helps to report it. That way the office is prepared. But it's not likely that you did anything wrong. Whoops. Back. All right, everyone, have a good night. Thank you so much for joining.